Greetings, everybody, and welcome to the Metal Magdalene with Jet Radio show here on Metal Messiah Radio. Today we have a special guest with us. We have Colin Young of the band Twitching Tongues. Welcome to the show, Colin.
Thanks for having me.
So, Colin, Twitching Tongues been around now for almost 10 years. So, what led you to want to form this band in the first place, Colin?
My brother and I had always had this lingering desire to do a kind of rockish hardcore band that had clean vocals, in the vein of bands like Typo Negative and Life of Agony. Mm-hmm. And over time, it just kind of evolved into what it is now, because we had so many other bands going on at the time that we were afraid to kind of be as heavy as we wanted to be at first with Twitching Tongues, but over time, this became the primary focus. And we could really make this our kind of grand vision of just this mega heavy band with mega melodic parts. And here we are.
And so what was like you guys' big first tour that you did?
It's weird. I mean, at first we did a European tour for like a week and a half without ever touring the U.S., which was pretty weird. And then it took us a long time to do like normal support tours, because we're such an odd brand of music that we kind of had to do our own thing, you know? Mm-hmm. So rather than wait for support tour offers to come to us, it would just be like, hey, why don't we just do our own things as often as we can? So it led to us doing this kind of annual fall headlining U.S. tour for 4 or 5 years, and it was just kind of this past year that we started doing regular kind of support tours to say, like, hey, new people that don't know who we are, here we are. So that's all. That's something that's just kind of starting for us now, 9 years later.
And so how would you say then, Colin, how has the band evolved over the years? I mean, it's only been 10 years, but still, how do you guys think that you've evolved since when you first started out in your first full length to now?
Musically, it's pretty drastic. Mm-hmm. The first record, it was all kind of like blues scale based, with some like kind of super metallic parts sprinkled in. And then in the next one, we kind of started that transition where it was like, hey, just so you know, this is something we can do too. And then on Disharmony, our last one, it was kind of full-blown, extreme, aggressive record with just these crazy melodic vocals over it. And that was where people were like, all right, what are these guys doing? This is crazy. So now with the new album, it kind of seems like we've found our focus and our balance between the two worlds, the two spectrums of music that people expect from us and not from us, where we have the crazy breakdown parts, but then we have the super catchy ballad songs. And that's the way it just felt so comfortable putting this record together. It just felt together so easy, because it was like, all right, now we get to do what we really want to do, and we also want to listen to what the people want. Mm-hmm. And really try to give everybody the coolest record that we could possibly present to them.
So, Colin, if people don't know who you are, and they ask you what kind of music do you play, what do you tell them?
I'll say we're somewhere between Fleetwood Mac and Suffocation.
There you go. So you guys got a new album coming out March 9th on Metal Blade Records called Gaining Purpose Through Passionate Hatred. And I watched the teaser for Kill For You Now. So I gotta know, I know it looks like you guys had a lot of fun, but the only thing that I want to know about this whole thing is what's up with the robe, and is that something that you guys incorporate? It's like super nerdy, Colin, but is that something is that something that you like incorporate into your shows now, or are going to?
Yeah, I kind of wanted to get a little more theatrical with just, a few different things in the live set. So it's, when you're watching something, it's so easy to watch a band in 2018 and be like, okay, they were just a band. I'm not trying to incorporate any kind of like gimmick into it. I just want to make a fun experience so that people can say, hey, I honestly can't wait to see that again, rather than like, I'll see him next time.
Right. Well,
it's just a cool little thing. Like I love professional wrestling, and to me it felt like it was like incorporating a professional wrestling entrance before the set, and that's cool. Like the two worlds that I love merged together.
Well, that's what it kind of reminded me of too, a little bit. Then, Colin, it kind of reminded me of the whole Ric Flair thing and all that kind of stuff.
And goal achieved.
There you go. So, who picks what songs that you guys pre-release anyways? Is that something you guys do, or the label, or do you guys get together and do it?
Yeah, I mean, it's a collaborative effort. It's definitely that's a real challenge for us, because no two songs on the album sound the same.
Right.
And no two songs really fully represent what the record and what we as a band sound like. So we kind of chose those first two, Harakiri and Kill For You, because they're kind of the opposite ends of what the record is all about. So you hear in Harakiri that it's, this aggressive kind of hardcore-based metallic thing going on, but then with Kill For You, it's this mega, like, Danzig kind of Morrissey ballad that is amongst the two songs what we're totally all about. Where we can go from the ballads to the heavy stuff, and it makes sense because it's just who we are. It's what we've always done.
And so let's get into the album now. First of all, let's start with the title, Gaining Purpose Through Passionate Hatred. So tell us why you chose to name it that and how this title pertains to the album itself.
Well, that was kind of our mindset going into writing the record, where it was like, all right, we're gonna take all of the things that we've experienced in the past 2 years and use it as fuel to write the best thing that we can. It was, responding to the people that might not have liked our record, or people that, talk shit or whatever. None of that stuff's important. So we move on from that in the best way we can by using it as inspiration. And it's not just like the title applies to everybody, everything. It's not necessarily as general as hatred for a person. It can be hatred for a political system in your country, hatred for the fucking bully that in middle school that tormented you, and using those personal experiences in your life to make yourself stronger and to come back unafraid and willing to defeat any adversity in your way. Suffering to gain your purpose.
And so is that basically what, the songs touch on a little bit? I mean, what are some of, like, the actual lyrical content in some of the songs on this album, Colin?
It definitely does. It starts as a kind of introspective, personal kind of journey in the first song, and then moves on to some kind of political stuff, and then some romantic ballad-esque lyrical content. It's all very personal, but all very relatable. For me, it was emotions that I know every human being experiences. And that's what made me fall in love with bands in high school and middle school. And hearing something and going like, yes, like this is what I feel. Or, hey, this is so much more serious than what I feel. So, like, suffering from things like suicidal urges in high school. Hearing records like River Runs Red and Perseverance, where it's like, yeah, I feel this way, but I'm not alone, and I don't have to feel this way. There's things I can do to better myself and to better the people around me in my community. And learning from that, and now channeling that into the same kind of format that I discovered it in. is my way of trying to pay it forward and give that same experience and realization to somebody else.
And now, Colin, in reading through the bio, it says that this album was directly inspired by like film scores, and that you wanted it to flow like a story being told. So how did you go about arranging this album and putting all the songs in a certain order and all that?
That was kind of the fun part. The more you listen to it, the more you'll hear kind of musical Easter eggs sprinkled throughout.
Mm-hmm.
There's references to early songs. There's references to other material of ours. There's, lyrical references to all over the record. It kind of starts and ends with the same kind of key and the same kind of atmosphere going on. And music is such an integral part of telling stories in movies that I'd had this idea for so long to just kind of start implementing that into Twisting Tongue's writing that it was so easy and so fun to start doing, to add just a little more theatricality to the overall listening experience.
So going into this album, Colin, did you already have this in your mind, that this is how you were going to do it?
Speaking of like the inspiration from the film scores?
Yeah, speaking of like, okay, we want this album and we want it to flow this way, so when we write it, we want to make all these stories flow like this. Was this all like preconceived?
Yeah, I usually go into a record knowing what every song is going to be about lyrically and the kind of general musical influence that we want each song to represent. It'll be pulling from our influences separately so that one song meets this kind of criteria, one song meets this kind of criteria. So there's not too much of one thing and too little of another thing.
Mm-hmm.
And that everything makes sense and everything is easier to digest.
Gotcha. And now, what about musically? Now, when you guys were doing this one musically, did you do anything differently in this album that you haven't done in previous ones?
Well, we've never had a third key creative contributor to the band, and the first time it was on this record with Sean Martin.
Mm-hmm.
The contributions that he made to this record turned it into something that it wouldn't have been without him, and that's what made it feel that much more special and that much cooler and that much different of an experience for us.
All right, Colin, well, why don't you tell us who else is in the band with you?
Right now, we have Sean Martin on lead guitar. We have Cale Sane on drums, who's a fucking maniac monster. We have Alec Faber on bass, who his live energy and spirit drives us all to kick it up a notch, which is something, maybe we need.
Mm-hmm.
So that's good. Taylor, my brother, plays guitar as well. And that's who we are.
And okay, so now tell us a little bit about the cover art and the artist.
The cover art is a painting by our good friend and incredibly talented tattooer, Mark Nava.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea was this kind of universal symbol of power over our personal symbol of power. And just a symbol of passion, a symbol of aggression that ties the whole record together.
And now what formats are you guys going to release this on?
Vinyl, CD, digital, the works,
And you guys got some tours coming up to follow the... What do you got going on there, Colin?
Yeah, next month we'll be in the U.S. with Hatebreed, Crowbar, and the Acacia Strain, and then we're following that up with a tour in kind of the northeast area with True Love and Bamakara.
Mm-hmm.
We'll be in Europe and the UK in June with a band called Vane, who's awesome. And we'll be busting our asses the whole rest of this year.
Well, our UK people will be very happy to hear that, because you have a lot of fans there, because when I mentioned this interview, the first ones to get all excited about it were the people from the UK, so they're going to be very excited about that, Colin.
Perfect. I love that.
And so, Colin, what are the best sites for people to learn more about the band, what you got coming up, and what's going on with you guys?
I would keep track of our Twitter and our general website, just twitchingtongues.com, that's the easiest place to get like a pre-order copy of our record via closed casket activities and any shirts of ours that we have up.
All right, well, that sounds great. And Colin, thank you for coming on the show and telling us about the band and the new album coming out next month, Gaining Purpose Through Passionate Hatred, off Metal Blade Records. And all the best with the new album and your tours and everything you got coming up.
Thanks so much for having me.